Hey, how are you? Kumusta po kayo? And thanks for tuning in to another edition of Paul Presents Art. So I'm Paul and I'll be your guide today. And today I brought you just outside Gallery Jones here in Vancouver, which is of course built on the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And momentarily we're gonna go inside the gallery and have a look at some paintings, some oil paintings by local artist Peter Aspell, who passed away in 2004. So the paintings are small, they are large, they're expressionistic, and I hope you can join me for the tour. So let's go inside and have a look. Okay, so we're just opening the door, going down the stairs, and we're gonna go and have a look at the first piece here at the Gallery Jones show of Peter Aspell's show called Colossus. And we're just looking at the very first piece, which is one of two large pieces in the show. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you a bit of a pan of the show. And then I'll give you some artist biography, some information about the artist. And then later on, we're going to go and have a look at each and every piece. And I'll tell you a little bit about each and every piece in the show. So, a passionate and devoted artist, Peter Aspell was born in Vancouver in 1918 and passed away in 2004 at the age of 86. Aspell was controversial, a risk taker, and incapable of compromise. While defiance and satire often characterized his work, so did an inherent sensitivity toward the human condition. Joy and humor were prevalent signifiers in his work. As well, highly motivated by religious worship and rituals embedded in other cultures, he took notions of various gods and deities and totally transformed them. Aspel adopted his own primitive, expressionist style of painting, and his legacy lives on through his surreal aesthetic, his iconic subjects, and his evocative and complex use of color. Kindly note that the biography was taken from the galleryjones.com website, which represents the estate of Peter Aspell. As we pan through the show, the first thing we notice is the exuberance and depth of color palette in each and every painting. He did go through a period of black, white, and grayscale paintings, but in all of his paintings, the predominantly cubist slash expressionist, even bombastic color style predominates. The works in this exhibition were gathered from both private collections and from the estate of Peter Aspell. The majority of the work in the show spans from the early to mid 1990s until a year before the artist passed in 2004. I've been following the work of the artist since the early 1990s, so these works are rather familiar to me. There was a time in Vancouver when expressionist painting was serious stuff, filled with emotion, angst, as well as experimentation into different materials being used by painters of that generation. As mentioned earlier, I think Aspell's work tends to volley between aspects of joy and melancholy, likely resulting from a rather complex social upbringing, and is the reason why I titled this video A Terrible Happiness. Wait for it as we go through each and every work in the show. First, I would like to apologize for not having the titles and information on these first three works in the site gallery. This first work seems to be part of a series of works that have an economy of color, using primarily shades of black, white, and grays, with careful hints of umbers and browns. The series creates an allegory between humanity and its relationship to technology. And you'll notice as you progress through the video that the artist works in series and themes. There are a number of portraits in the show, which to me references the works of local artist Maxwell Bates, who was almost a contemporary of Aspell's. There's a caricature type quality to these portraits and akin to the creation of personalities within a social circle. This particular piece is called The Elitist, 2001. It's oil on museum board, 24 by 17.5 inches. These portraits seem to me a type of character development, such as those found in novels by authors such as Robertson Davies or maybe even Iris Murdoch. Now, moving on to the main room, we see a trifecta of large canvases. And they're usually titled Vaughan. Like this first one that you're seeing is called Vaughan 2, 1997, oil on canvas, 60 by 44 inches. There's a keyhole and a stained glass-like background, perhaps paying homage to religion as Peter Aspell was brought up a Catholic. So as we move on to the second Vaughan piece to the right, which is called Vaughan number 4, 1997, oil on canvas, 60 by 42 inches. So these pieces are a little bit more medium size when it compared to the sizes of paintings that Peter Aspell has done. This particular piece has elements of smokestacks on the shoulders, perhaps reminiscent of industrialization. Also other accoutrements like the electrical wire and plug that seem to hint at humankind and its relationship to the machine. And just to the right of this piece is another Vaughan piece called Vaughan 3, which we're going to go to momentarily. It's 1997, oil on canvas, 60 by 46 inches. And there's a saxophone-like object with a hangman's noose, has an ominous air about it. Now this series, mostly larger in format and have a distinct German expressionist feel to them. Perhaps that's why they're titled Vaughan, as in common names and Germanic last names like von Bismarck, for example. It's just a theory. It's useful to be reminded that Aspell was a post-World War II artist and that the war was a recent occurrence when he attended art school in Belgium. This next piece that we're going to have a look at is called The Bride, 2003, oil on canvas, 60 by 45 inches. To me, there is a hint of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo in this composition, especially with the artificial or mechanized limb suggestion of medical x-rays. Aspell became fascinated by x-rays and tended to incorporate them in a number of compositions. Just to the right of this piece, after we go and pan through a little bit closer just to sort of get a few details of this, because there's this sense of the x-ray being sort of looked at. It's almost like this relationship that he wants to deal with in terms of machines and the body. This particular piece that we're looking at now is called T59, which is one of the earlier pieces in the show. 1982, it's oil on canvas and measures 70 by 57 inches. Aspell was also interested in the work of Spanish artist Antoni Tapies, moving into the realm of symbolism through abstraction. This is one of the earlier works in the show. And what we're looking at now is called The Diplomat, 2002, oil on canvas, 60 by 45 inches. Seems to continue the theme of portraiture and character development, as in the previous work in the smaller gallery earlier. You'll notice a flatness to the works and a richness to the paintings with the use of oil paints. This use of flatness was likely a fascination with ancient Egyptian tomb paintings, where the figures were both flat and stylized. This actually segues nicely into the next series of small format paintings of seascape vistas. And this first piece that we're looking at is called Into Uncharted Seas 1, 1995, oil on matte board, 13 by 14.5 inches. These are sort of like seascapes to me. The next one beside it is called Into Uncharted Seas, Voyage of the Maidens, 1995, oil on matte board, 13 by 15 inches. There is a sense of the sea, perhaps even a river, in these paintings, with a green boat, and some rudimentary symbols that remind us of simple cave paintings, like celestial symbols rendered as stick figures. And then to the right of that is called Into Uncharted Seas, number 3, 1995, oil on matte board as well, 13 by 50 inches. There is also animistic type symbols representing religion, nature, the stars, the wildlife, and even an African style rendition of a mask, which you can see over there a little bit higher up. And of course, lots of little sort of like celestial symbols. And then moving on, after we leave this trifecta of paintings, we're going to move into this piece called Cleopatra, 1998, oil on canvas, 60 by 45 inches. This exhibition covers a lot of territory, earliest of which is a painting from 1982, but most are from the period about 10 years before the artist's passing. The themes change, but there is a consistency with the figuration and its roots in German Expressionism between the two world wars. So we're just going to go and have a look a little bit closer at this painting. You see the little asp snake. And then as we go through this other piece here called The Mad Poet, 2003 oil on canvas, 66 by 45, we must also remember that the artist was vehement in exploring this type of figuration during a time when abstract expressionism's influence was being felt. Toward the late 1980s until the artist's death, Aspell's international contemporaries, including younger artists such as Jean-Michel Basquiat and a whole slew of European-based figurative expressionism, exploring figuration not only in painting but in sculpture and other media. So we're just going to go and move on to some paintings that are actually exhibited in the corridor as we enter the gallery. And it's a selection of smaller works, mainly on matte board or museum board. And the first of these is called Nocturnal X-Ray, 2002 oil on matte board, 20 by 18 inches. We're just going to do a little bit of a close-up here. These series of works look at Aspell's interest in medical X-rays and an ongoing fascination with machines or mechanization. Perhaps the inner exposure of internal organs from the X-rays creates a symbolism with machines, both biological and mechanical, just a thought. This piece that we're looking at right now, Flesh and Steel with Bed, 2002, is oil on museum board, 22 by 18 inches, and we're just going to go and have a look at it closer as well. This is one of those few pieces that are sort of like more economical in terms of the color of the paint. And this third one is called The X-Ray for Dr. Von Cutler, 1998, oil on matte board, 18 by 14 inches. And we're just going to look at them a little bit closer, and then we're going to go and have a look at another major piece just opposite on the other side of this wall, which is actually called The Industrialist. So this painting was made in 1998, oil on canvas, 56 by 70 inches. This painting, when looked up close, seemed to have an even treatment of the paint, looking more flat than the more textured works that we've seen before. Also, the treatment of color is different, where gradations of color are more prevalent than in the other more textured works. And just flipping over to the other side is another trifecta of smaller canvases having a more tribal or primitive iconography to them. This one that we're looking at is called September Afternoon, Sun God, 1993, I think. Oil on museum board, 15 by 12 inches. And the next one is Evening Sunflower Queen, 1995, oil on matte board, 16 by 12 inches. And we're just going to go perhaps have a closer look at this one. And the next one that we're going to look at, which is to the right of this piece after we have a look at this, is kind of interesting to me anyways. It's one of my favorite ones. It's not the most colorful one, the one after this one, but we'll go and have a look. And that piece that we're going to be looking at is called Woman Combing Hair, which is 1993/2003, oil on matte board, 16 by 12 inches. For this particular work, there is a notable influence of African art, especially the depiction of the head. It reminds me of small to medium-sized fetish wooden statues of the sub-Saharan Africa, perhaps coming from the Congo region or Nigeria. And then we're just gonna go back into the main area of the exhibition space because there's another large piece that I want to sort of show you, which is probably the last piece in the show, and it's called the Red Guardian, which was executed in 1997. It's oil on canvas, 66 by 72 inches. I've been thinking about the tribal art influences in this work, which is mostly from Africa, but also a fascination with ancient Egypt, as referenced through tomb paintings with their prominent outlines and flat colors. As we move into the painting, you'll also see certain sort of like insect-like people, sort of like graffiti, and also horns and even sort of like reminiscent of African art. So I think this is a good place to end things. Please share your thoughts in the comment section below, and I hope you enjoyed this tour of Peter Winterhalter Aspell's work here at Gallery Jones. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel. It's all free and it helps the channel gain momentum. Seriously, it does help. As my channel is not monetized, your patronage is really appreciated. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Thank you so much for joining me today. You have a great day, and I hope art continues to inform your life. And perhaps I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.